Bro?
From Adrian Bosco. What is the crime rate of illegal immigrants compared to the general population?
Less. It's less than the general population. Illegal immigrants commit less crimes because they are more afraid of getting caught. Stop listening to Fox News. Stop listening to these conservatives. They don't know what they're talking about.
Interesting question, because the data is very sparse, and until recently, only one state actually tracked that data, the great state of Texas. Whenever they arrest anyone, they find out their immigration status, and they publish those records online for the world to see. Undocumented immigrants commit crimes at a much lower rate than U.S. citizens. Why is that? Well, if you're undocumented, you don't commit crime because you know you'll be caught and sent back to your home country. Despite what you see on the ICE Twitter feed every day, undocumented immigrants are generally law-abiding. They have strong families. They go to church on Sundays. Many own businesses. This question from M.M. Brent.
Correct.
Do illegal immigrants vote in the United States?
No.
No, because they can't vote. Undocumented immigrants know they can't vote. In federal elections.
Stop listening to conservatives in election years where they're trying to convince you that illegal immigrants are voting. They are not. They just are not.
Only U.S. citizens can vote. In state elections, only U.S. citizens can vote. Sometimes in municipalities, they allow every person resident in that municipality to vote. But for the most part, you have to be a U.S. citizen to vote in the United States. Under President Bill Clinton, we created a law called motor voter. When you applied for a license, they registered the vote. Frequently, in the 90s and the early 2000s, they registered everybody who got a license, including individuals at the time who were immigrants to the United States. Did a couple of those vote? Yeah. Every year, you're talking about, in the entire country, fewer than a couple of dozen people vote illegally. We're constantly in search of a solution to a problem.
And if those people are voting illegally, they're probably not immigrants either way. Out of all the voter fraud that gets caught, that gets like found in this country, I can guarantee you, if there's dozens of them in total, then even a smaller fraction of that are immigrants.
Doesn't exist on illegal voting. Can ICE arrest people without a warrant? And if so, if they're not wearing a uniform, a badge, or an ID, how are people supposed to trust them?
This is a good question.
ICE can arrest individuals without a warrant within a 100-mile zone around the entire United States. This includes 70% of the U.S. population. So if you're in New York City, an ICE officer walks up to you on the street and says, "Show me your papers." Entirely legal for them to do that. They also don't need a warrant to arrest someone who they can positively identify.
You know what's crazy about that, though? Is that there's a very good argument to be made about the fact that that is potentially racial profiling, because say you're an ICE officer, and you're in New York City, like he said, right? You're almost 100% more likely to go up to a Puerto Rican or a Dominican and ask for their papers than you are to go up to, say, a Russian immigrant. And there are plenty of Russian immigrants in New York. There are plenty of Ukrainian immigrants in New York. There are plenty Albanians, just in general, Algerians. There are plenty of white immigrants that are in New York City, and they're probably not going to get stopped because ICE is going to be looking at your facial features and your overall appearance, and they're going to use that to determine whether they think you're an immigrant or not, which by and large will mean that you're going to be looking at more Hispanic, potentially even Asian immigrants, because if you're say Afro-Cuban or if you're Afro-Dominican, you're probably just going to look like a regular African-American person, and they're not going to say anything. If you are Russian, you're probably going to look like your average white boy, so they're not going to say anything. It'll be safe to assume that you're going to be able to racial profile, right? Second thing, though, say you are I hope I didn't say Puerto Rican, because Puerto Ricans are citizens. So I don't know if I did say Puerto Rican. Apologies. Say you are an American citizen, but you are the firstborn of an American citizen, and your parents are permanent residents, and you're Mexican, right? Like your parents are Mexican, and you live in New York City, and you are 100% a U.S. citizen. And say you are 16, 17, 18 years old, and you have an ID, right? Technically, an ID is not proof of citizenship. It's just an identification. So technically, if they go up to an 18-year-old kid that is, by all accounts, a U.S. citizen, even Actually, even worse. If they're in New York City, they probably don't even have an ID because they don't drive anywhere, or they don't have a driver's license because they don't drive anywhere because all they do is take the subway. And getting an ID in New York is probably fucking crazy long. So there's a good chance that some kid might not have identification, and if they have a school ID or whatever, it's not going to be enough. So if an ICE agent goes up to a citizen that has Mexican heritage and they ask for their papers, the kid's not going to know what the fuck to do, and they're not going to be able to prove it. And because they can't prove it, they might still detain him anyway. I'm sure that that's happened, and that's still just as fucked up.
As being in violation of U.S. immigration law. Now, they do need a warrant to enter a home unless they're in active pursuit of an individual. Now, you're seeing today a lot of videos of ICE officers out there with no ID or ID that misstates who they are, the police. ICE is not the police, or refusing to identify themselves as they arrest individuals. But until you have an administration that enforces requirements that they wear uniforms and identify themselves, you will see this continue until Americans get tired of it. There are a number of U.S. citizens that have been arrested because they look foreign. Either they don't speak English very well, or they don't have papers with them. In parts of the United States where that is outside the 100-mile zone, what ICE can do is they can surveil locations, for example, an apartment complex mostly populated by immigrants. ICE walks around on their phones with an app with the photos of anyone who's ever given their photo to many DMVs, passports, and immigration. If you come up as somebody in their phone known to be undocumented, they will just arrest you without you saying anything. But our advice as lawyers is you simply remain quiet. If you're not under arrest, you ask, am I being detained? If I'm not being detained, walk slowly away. If they say they're detaining you, you're under arrest, and then you say, I'm not speaking without a lawyer. Don't resist arrest, don't run away, but you have no obligation to talk to them. ICE.
Don't talk to cops. Ever. Not even to help them. Not even if you're not even the one in question. Don't talk to cops. Just say, I need a lawyer. Period. End of story. I'm sure there's videos online of like lawyers that can explain to you why you should not talk to cops. So you should look that up. But in general, if you are getting detained, not even immigration related, not even ICE related, if you're just getting a ticket, don't talk to cops.
Did in January revoke guidance that prohibited them from going to places like schools and churches and hospitals.
Yo, that was so crazy. Oh my God, that was so crazy. It was so heartbreaking just thinking about like parents having to have conversations with their kids about if this happens at school. Okay.
They're not going to those places, generally speaking, because there was a lot of pushback and a lot of litigation that was initially filed against the Trump administration.
They're probably outside, though.
Policies, but they are arresting people outside of schools. So people just don't send their kids to school. This question from